Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Nick Kitchin. I'm CEO of Cumulus Energy Storage, and we're enabling renewable electricity by developing the lowest cost grid-level energy storage battery. The problem we're solving is that, as I'm sure you're well aware, the grid isn't designed to cope with the variable and intermittent renewable generation, whether that's solar or whether that's wind or any other form of renewable generation. So what we need in the middle is a buffer. At the moment, most of the buffer is pumped hydro, so 2 reservoirs, which you can't move anywhere, obviously. We need a flexible solution, hence the need for our grid scale 1 to 100 megawatt hour copper zinc battery technology. So this is just one of the symptoms that was present last year. If you take the Chinese equivalent of this, it's about $1.8 billion it cost China last year for exactly the same kind of issue. This is a global problem. We've got a global market opportunity here, and we just want to make sure we develop the right product to be able to make sure we satisfy the needs. Okay, so the company really kicked off with a grant from what was then DEC, now BIS. The aim of that was to develop a grid-scale energy storage battery which we could grid connect, and we've done that. We've got the full-scale grid connected a 2 kilowatt-hour battery, which is quite small, but it's basically meter by meter. A couple of cells did that, satisfied that requirement. On the back of that, we've raised about 3.2 million, if you include the grant so far. We've got patent granted in the UK, we've got international patents pending, and there's a Renewable patent that we're developing right now to protect the core patent technology. The end result of that is that we're now the only company in the world that can manufacture and sell the copper zinc rechargeable battery, which is quite a claim given that the copper zinc battery was first invented some 200 years ago. And yes, as Peter pointed out, we now have facilities in both San Francisco, in Oakland, in San Francisco, where we've got 10 employees, and we've got people in Sheffield at the AMP Technology Centre, so part of the University of Sheffield, in fact, with another 5 employees there, and we're hoping to move into 26,000 square feet facility in March next year to do our development line project. So, very old, experienced management team, including me. So I'm not going to go through this in detail, but basically, I set the company up. I was analysing the offshore wind power industry at the time. I went across to San Francisco. I bumped into Darren, who's a friend of mine from London Business School. We did the same MBA there at the same time, and basically started quite night conversations. So it was pretty clear to me very quickly that the offshore wind power industry was something that was going to have big numbers. 50 billion by 2020, 7,000 wind turbines by 2020, those sorts of numbers, same amount of steel as the car industry. It was a big opportunity for us to get hold of. But what should we actually manufacture? So we very quickly narrowed it down to blades, foundations, and storage. And obviously, the storage is the one that I've got everyone very excited about. So that's why we're doing the storage, and that basically is the story of the start of this company. So Mike used to be Darren's CTO for Darren's technology business, which he floated on AIM in 2007. Mike's master's level chemistry, very clever chap, and he's the principal inventor of our copper zinc technology. I'm sure most of you will know quite a bit about energy storage, but just briefly, most of it is, about 96% of it is pumped hydro. These figures are taken from July this year. They're the actual operational energy storage, as opposed to energy storage that's being developed at the moment, rather than actually being out there and being used. From the DOE Global Energy Storage Database. It's the best source of information in this sense I've found. So if you're interested, that's the place to look. But the interesting bit, the exciting bit, is this little segment on the right-hand side. This is the bit that you can't see copper zinc at the moment, but I'm sure you will do in the not-too-distant future. So it shows some of the technologies that are on here. Lithium-ion, probably the biggest one that we've all been talking about this morning. So market opportunity. So on the left-hand side, we've got Bloomberg New Energy Finance talking about gigawatts. On the right-hand side, I've deliberately got IHS talking about gigawatt hours. Both of these market representations, in my view, are gross underestimates of the total market opportunity. For example, the Bloomberg one doesn't seem to include India at all. India has forecast they want to put 175 gigawatts of renewable electricity generation into India by 2022, 100 gigawatts of solar, 70 gigawatts of wind, 60 gigawatts of wind, and a little bit of pumped hydro, etc. But basically, it's an awful lot of renewable electricity generation that's going to go in between now and 2022. For that, PwC believe that India is going to need about 15 gigawatts of energy storage. And if you talk to the Indian Energy Storage Alliance, I just got their latest report, they're forecasting 70 gigawatts of energy storage required between now and 2022, and 200 gigawatt hours that is equivalent to. That's equivalent to about 200,000 of our 40-foot containers. That's just India, okay? I'm just trying to give you a feel for scale here. This is an emerging but potentially huge market. Our part of the market, as distinct from lithium-ion, so we're not competing with lithium-ion. I want to be very clear about that. Lithium-ion is great for the high power, short duration. All this EFR, frequency response, all that sort of stuff we talked about this morning, that's a specific segment of the energy storage market. High power, short duration, lithium-ion in current is the current incumbent. No problem, great. However, where we are is the high energy, long duration part of that market. This is about time-shifting renewables, about taking the renewable generation, whatever time it's actually generated when the sun is shining, when the wind is blowing, storing it, and then delivering it at the time that it's needed. 4 to 6 hours is the critical time frame for security of supply, for this time-shifting, all those sorts of applications. So this is talking about big, bulk energy time shift. That's the marketplace. And that market is going to end up at about 50% of the total energy storage market. There is no current incumbent in that market in terms of the new technologies, so I'm ignoring pumped hydro at the moment. But in terms of growth markets and growth technologies, there is no incumbent. You've got sodium sulfur, that's got a little bit of the market. You've got flow batteries, which I believe are going to be talked about shortly as another part of the market. But there's no incumbent in this high energy, long duration market, unlike lithium-ion, that's in the high power, short duration market. So I'm just drawing that distinction. A couple of figures for those with a more financial background about Cumulus. You can see hopefully where we're going, and this figure here particularly excites me a lot. Okay, I think that's going to be quite good, assuming we get there. £350 a kilowatt hours of capex cost, not the cheapest product in the market from a capex point of view. That's not the relevant metric for you to have a look at and think about. The relevant metric is this levelized cost of energy, so I'm going to show you a graph of that in a minute. We could sell batteries. We don't want to sell batteries. The marketplace isn't asking us to buy batteries or to sell batteries to them. What the marketplace is asking for is storage as a service. Different from a lease model, so it's not about fixed, you've got a car and you lease a car, you have certain monthly payments and you pay off the car over however many years it is. Fixed amount regardless of how much the car is used. The storage as a service model is basically the customer pays for the amount of energy that is delivered by the battery system. Okay? So the more they use it, the more they pay. That's a very, very simple model, but that's what the industry is asking for. I see us as needing not only our own manufacturing, I see us needing contract manufacturing. I also see us needing licensing deals in various parts of the world where we're not going to be operating ourselves. There's only so far we can expand our own organisation. So it already feels like sitting on the back of a racehorse right now at the beginning of a race, just waiting for those gates to open. And I can definitely feel as though it's going to feel like hanging on to the back end of a tiger's tail once this market really gets going. So it's emerging, but it's a very, very exciting market, and we seem to be in a very good space. So in terms of technology, what we've got here is essentially it's the US Department of Energy. They produce a handbook. In 2013, it's the latest copy available. It's the only publication I've seen where they've forced each technology to use one cycle a day with fixed loan debt costs, fixed equity costs, and various other constraints. So you can actually do a comparison of the different technologies on an apples-to-apples basis. So down here, on the levelized cost of energy, is essentially the total cost of that the total cost of that installation over its lifetime. So that's the capex cost plus the financial cost plus the operations, maintenance cost, and all the rest of it. All those costs in net present value terms divided by the number of megawatt hours that are delivered over that same time scale. Okay. So here we have pumped hydro, 96% of the market. Then we have compressed energy storage above and below ground. And then we have a whole series of battery technologies. There's a bit of a space here. And then we have the lithium-ion on the top left, which is obviously clearly very, very expensive. Even with Tesla helping to drive down the lithium-ion prices, even with the vertical integration of the lithium-ion supply chains, so that the cell manufacturers have integrated the pack manufacturers within that supply chain is the key reason why that cost of lithium ion has come down so far. It's not about the materials that lithium ion is using, that's forecast to go up. But taking that into account, so it has changed slightly. But what our aim is to have the same levelized cost of energy as pumped hydro. If you're going to have a decent double-digit market share, you need to be at the same kind of price point as the current incumbent, as in 96% of the market. We can do that. What we've done is we've taken the mining industry, we've taken a two-stage process, leaching and then electrowinning. We've done this deliberately because what we want to do is we want to take large-scale processes, we've tried to test the chemistries as a way to de-risk and shorten our development program. You don't want to do what some of our lithium-ion, etc. competitors have done. We want to do something that's going to be right for the market and something that's going to be cost-effective. So the second stage of this mining process, electrowinning, these plants operate for decades and they operate at hundreds of megawatts. Large-scale, tried-and-tested chemistry. Take that chemistry, and how do we turn that into a rechargeable copper zinc battery? Well, 200 years ago, Volta had a disc of copper, a disc of zinc, some cardboard and some brine. He didn't have a membrane to make it rechargeable, but he used that structure in the basically the telegraph industry for a large number of years. That was the first battery ever invented. What we've done is we've taken a membrane from another industry. We haven't done anything to it. We've put that in between the copper and the zinc discs. We've created a rechargeable battery as a consequence of that. The link with electrowinning is that every time you charge the battery, copper goes into solution, into the electrolyte, and zinc electrowinns onto the zinc electrode. Every time you discharge the battery, zinc goes into solution, copper electrowinns onto the copper electrode. That's the basic structure. So as long as the copper and the zinc ions don't go through the membrane, you can keep charging and discharging this as many times as you like. It's a very, very, very simple, deliberately so, simple concept. Megawatt hour fits in a 40-foot container. That's the chemistry bit of it. And then if you want to go for the 100 megawatt hour scale, this is actually a photograph of an copper electrowinning plant in Chile. But if you take a copper electrowinning plant, a zinc electrowinning plant, and put a membrane in the middle, that's pretty much what our battery system will look like. So this is sort of representative of where we're going. So distributed energy storage, 1 megawatt hour scale, containerized, deliberately, move it around wherever it's necessary, wherever it's needed. There you go. If you want to go down the centralized route, say you've got a 500 megawatt wind farm offshore, HVDC cables coming onshore, HV substation onshore, and then you put our battery next to it. That might be an example of a centralized energy storage system, for example. And that avoids the AC, DC, DC-AC losses. Why copper and zinc? Well, two key reasons, really. First, it's very safe and reliable, unlike some of the scare stories that we've heard already this morning about some of the other technologies out there. We've already got this proven chemistry, as I mentioned. We are really scaling down from this 10 megawatts scale down to a much smaller scale for the energy storage requirements. We're not scaling up. And it works at room temperature. And it's mainly water. It's an aqueous battery system. It's not a flow battery. It's an aqueous battery system. So it's literally flooded cells. Most of it is water. And that's essentially what it is. And the second thing is that if we're enabling this lowest projected levelized cost of energy, we're using copper and zinc, the 25th and 26th most abundant materials in the Earth's crust. Access to supply, not an issue. And in terms of price sensitivity, are we exposed with regard to that? No, not really. The percentage cost of copper and zinc in terms of total cost is actually a very small percentage, well down in lower percentages. So we're not exposed significantly to commodity price variations. It's scalable, yes. Full scale is a meter by meter roughly. And if you want more energy storage, you just make more cells. So it's an automotive process. We've got the people in place now in Sheffield to do that. We're able to, and this is again, it's deliberately designed into the production device. We're able to maintain this at cell level. So we're expecting every certain number of years to do some upgrades, some maintenance, etc. But basically, it's designed so that we can take an individual cell out without it impacting on the whole of the rest of the battery system. Hence, we can offer 30-year life potentially. And around trip efficiency, our Generation 2 product, so sort of Q4 2018 or thereabouts, we expect to have a round trip efficiency in excess of 80%. I'm not talking here about DC-DC, I'm talking about AC-AC, system level, energy in, energy out. That's the important metric to use. Okay, this is a very, very good performance or potential performance product. In terms of markets, we're not in the domestic market. We're not competing with Tesla or Moitza or anybody else you might want to think about in the UK. So forget the consumer market. That's very crowded. It's not our sweet spot. Our sweet spot is the commercial renewable generation, so megawatt plus solar and wind, for example, generation. It's about the electricity intensive industries, so aluminium, steel, production, those sorts of things. And then as and when, Jill, rather than if, policy gets sorted out with regard to the grid infrastructure, then obviously that will then become our potential largest market. But right now, behind the meter renewables generation, behind the meter electricity intensive industries, they're global markets, they're existing opportunities, so we've got plenty to go at while the politicians sort out the final legislation for the rest of it. These are people we're working with as part of our customer interest group. So you can tell we've got generation, transmission, distribution. Obviously, we've got very close working relationship with particularly Peter here from the University of Sheffield, and we've got a project which is just started using the University of Sheffield for 2 of the work packages. You probably know most of the rest of the people on this slide already. So I think, apart from the most important slide of all, if there are any investors in the room, I never miss an opportunity to say, here's the deal, guys. I'm raising 4 million at the moment, and I need to do it in the next 3 to 4 weeks if we can possibly manage it. So anybody who's interested, great opportunity, great company, here you go. There's the deal. Okay? See me later about that bit. Okay, that's it. That's all I wanted to say. Thanks so much. Questions, comments, observations?
Nick, can I ask you what scale you've built these units to so far?
Yeah, the meter by meter, which is full scale, 2 kilowatt hours is what we've physically got connected so far. That's the biggest we've got to so far.
And you just build modules?
Yes. So between now and end of Q2, early Q3 next year, we'll have a development line in Sheffield, actually on AMP is the intention, which is going to produce about a megawatt hour a month, or 1 40-foot container a month, which we can turn into 3 a month, and then we can build from that for our Generation 2 product. So, yeah. So we're on a technology roadmap right now. There's nothing commercially in the marketplace at the moment, but it's not far off. Okay. Anybody else?
Sorry, I might have missed it, but in your 40-foot container, do you have power conversion equipment as well? Or?
No, that's separate. Yeah, that's deliberately so. So we have the bidirectional inverter, we have the fan control, we have the battery monitoring system as opposed to battery management system. It's separate to the chemistry.
Okay, so that's another container.
Yeah, small one. Yeah. Okay. Safety reasons.
Time for one more quick question, if anybody's.
No?
Of course, the other thing about this battery is its recyclability.
Oh, yeah, 99.5% recycled, by the way. High point.
And maintainable, unlike the lithium-ion battery.
Yep. Thanks, Peter. Any more supportive measures you want to bring in there? It's fine. I haven't paid him anything, by the way. Nothing. 0 so far. So, but he is on our technical advisory board. So.
Sorry, just following up from that question there, the external equipment that isn't included in the battery there, is that including your levelized cost of energy?
Yeah, the levelized cost of energy includes the chemistry, so the cells, the battery itself, in other words, bidirectional inverter, and the battery management system or battery monitoring system. Yeah. All the rest is site specific. So yeah, it does include that.
Okay, we'll have to curtail the discussion there, but thanks again, Nick.
Pleasure.
Best of luck.